Podcast Network Asia.
What's going on? This is Xavier Woods, a.k.a. Austin Creed.
I said give me a hell yeah!
Hey, this is Zeta Zay.
Hello, WWE Universe in the Philippines. This is Charlotte.
Talent is not sexually transmitted.
You need to go back to the drawing board because your game absolutely sucks!
Hey everyone, this is Jeff Cobb.
I'm Lewis Howley. I'm Sam Spoker. We are pretty deadly. Yes, boy. Yes, boy.
Hello, my name is Ilya Dragunov, the star, the NXT UK champion, and you're listening to the Wrestling Podcast.
You are watching and listening to the longest-running weekly episodic Filipino wrestling podcast. This is the Wrestling Podcast. Stan C, Romoran, and Emile ASH on another live stream. We're breaking down Elimination Chamber, the fallout from that. We're also going to take a quick side trip to Japan. Ang dami ring ganap sa mga Japanese promotions na sinusubaybayan natin. And of course, the rest of the week in wrestling. It's about to be a lot of fun. But before we get down to business, sa mga di pa nakakaalam, sana alam nyo, at sana rin alam ng mga HR nyo, na special non-working day na bukas dahil kailangan nating i-commemorate ang EDSA People Power Revolution even in the darkest timeline.
Pati si Bongbong magko-commemorate.
I mean, siya yung pumirma ng executive order.
Yeah,
so
he's gonna celebrate the day they got kicked out of Malacanang. Yeah. Sabu pa more. Cocaine pa more.
Unity. So, sana alam ng mga HR nyo para may extra 30% kayo for working tomorrow. Yun lang naman, di ba? Para syempre, kumikita yung mga kabuhayan natin. So, let your HR representatives know in case they missed the piece of news that dropped literally minutes ago. Alright? Speaking of kumikitang kabuhayan, kumikita naman ng konti yung Patreon namin. And syempre, we do that as our way of keeping alive yung mga ginagawa natin sa Wrestling Podcast for our patrons, our loyal subscribers. So, Emile ASH, why don't you let the good people know about the benefits they can get from being a Wrestling Podcast patron?
Alright, so madaming benefits ang pagiging Patreon of our Patreon program. And one of it is our watch party. And in a couple of weeks, AEW will have their first pay-per-view of 2023, which is Revolution. So we're going to have a watch party. So you could hang out with us, banter, just chilling with us. I think that's going to be on a Monday morning, March 6th. So you could join our watch party by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/wrestling podcast for as low as $5, or in the local currency is around 260 or 270 pesos. And madami pang perks ang pag-subscribe sa Patreon namin. We do have our Discord community where we talk about everything and anything under the sun. Of course, we talk about wrestling, but we also talk about gaming, fashion, food, memes. So anything that you want to talk about with us, you could hang out with us in our Discord server. And another perk of subscribing to our Patreon is our pasabays. And we're going to have a next one during WrestleMania season kasi madaming sale and all that. And also you can get some exclusive review content from the weekly wrestling shows like Raw, SmackDown, and local wrestling events as well. By subscribing to our Patreon, you are supporting everything that we do here on the podcast. So everything, all in all, you can do that by joining in our Patreon by subscribing at patreon.com/wrestling podcast for as low as $5. So there you go.
Ro, anong grade ni Emile ngayon?
Emile, tell them what happened last Sunday.
What
do we do last Sunday morning?
Elimination Chamber. Oh. Yeah, I forgot to slip that in. Okay.
Yeah. So we will be doing Revolution in a couple of weeks. This one is legit watch party na kasi syempre they're not gonna buy the pay-per-view on Fight TV. So you could watch it yourself. I don't know if TV here has it, but syempre we will be making our patrons' lives easier by putting that up on our Discord stream. Yun lang naman.
All right, so there. All the things you can get by being a Wrestling Podcast patron. Let's get right into it. Since binanggit na ni Ro and Emile yung Elimination Chamber, dun tayo magsisimula. And we're going to talk about that ending with Sami Zayn losing against Roman Reigns. And the biggest question coming out of that na pinagdedebatehan pa rin ng fans all over the internet is, did anybody drop the ball here? Was this a missed opportunity to let Sami Zayn get the win in Montreal? Let's start with you, Emile. What were your feelings when you saw Sami take the pin?
At that moment, though, I felt devastated because days leading up to the Chamber, like even sa live stream natin last week, I was still saying na Roman's gonna win. All the signs are pointing to a Roman win. But what happened from after we recorded that until before the match, nag-swing yung heart ko eh. I was pulling for a Sami Zayn win. I think most of us did. Pero we all know what's gonna happen anyways. Pero hindi ko pa rin naiwasan yung ma-feel na yung devastation when Sami was pinned. And it's not the fact that he was pinned or he lost, but it's the way, I think, that he lost that match na I felt underwhelmed on how that match ended. I think that is how I'm gonna put it.
All right. Ikaw, Ro, did you think this was a missed opportunity? Or okay lang, kasi the road to WrestleMania has been pretty clear and is now much clearer.
Yeah, I thought it was. I wasn't gonna begrudge the way they did it kasi syempre there's still Cody. But for me, I still wanted this to happen. This is what I wanted to happen. I think they could still have their Cody cake and eat it. I don't think the WrestleMania feud between Cody and Roman was absolutely set in stone. Like, they did fire some shots a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't think that there wasn't a sense na that was going to be the final thing. Because they were doing a lot of things. They did Cody versus Roman, Cody versus Heyman. They did Cody and Sami together. So how I always thought of it was they were covering their bases to figure out where they wanted to go. And I think they did that enough to justify having Sami win. Like, I think the crowd was super ready for a Sami win. I think that they riled up the fans enough by having Roman be a legit heel that we were ready to do the thing, you know. I think at this point, there were a lot of other justifiable possibilities for Roman Reigns na hindi nila tinuloy. Is it the same thing as a heartbreak that Vince McMahon would do? I don't think so. Kasi I still think that the end game was always Roman losing the championships at WrestleMania. But like I said before, when it came to kunyari, New Japan's Gedo's long-term booking, sometimes you just got to be able to adjust. And I think that this was the time they should have adjusted because of their own doing, because of how well they told their own stories, because of how great Sami and Roman and Heyman and whoever and the Usos were acting. So, wala, sayang talaga, missed opportunity, yeah. But I don't think it's like the biggest heartbreak in WWE right now.
Since we're talking about heartbreaks, let me ask you this, Ro. Which was the bigger heartbreak? The missed opportunity for Sami to win in Montreal or yung ending ng How I Met Your Mother?
Oh, binawi naman nila yun eh. I mean, like they did a fixed quote unquote ending of the show. So at least there was that, even though it wasn't the canon ending. Eto, Martin says it's the latter, but you know, it was the biggest miss, I think, in Montreal. Like, you broke an entire city's heart there, and I didn't think they deserved it. You know, I think it would have been a great opportunity to show that the Triple H regime actually cares about the fans. It does. They do care about the fans, but this would have been the best win. You know, we liked to rave about Tony Khan in the, I guess, first half at this point of AEW's history for bringing the fans the results that they wanted, like the CM Punk stuff, the Hangman stuff, the Kenny Omega stuff. And the reason why that worked out was because, well, it just showed that he was listening. Like, he was listening to the pulse of the people. And yes, meron din naman ganon when it comes to Cody being the one anointed to take the championships. Pero there was also a loud clamor for this. And I thought that it sucked that they didn't listen to this clamor.
Speaking of the voice of the people, Ro, you did an informal poll on our TikTok.
Ayun, isa pa yan. If you guys follow us on TikTok, I posted the clip of the final minutes of the Roman versus Sami match. Wala, naisip ko lang. I wasn't, you know, making it to be a thing or anything. I just wanted to get more interactions. But I ran a poll that I asked that, was this the right decision? Was Sami losing the right decision? And surprisingly, 60% of the respondents said, yes, it was the right decision. That's around 400 plus people voting yes, and compared to around 200 something people voting no. So it goes to show that even though you and I in Montreal and you guys wanted Sami to win, there is actually, I guess, a significant amount of people. I'm assuming the reason they voted yes was because they wanted Cody to win.
Mm-hmm. Ikaw, Emile, what do you think about our TikTok poll, for example? Yun na lang, that small sample size of wrestling fans, mostly in the Philippines, and their feelings towards this being apparently the right result.
I mean, to be fair naman, no, on this podcast last week, we were predicting mostly Roman win. So I think may hatak yung 60% of the fans who thought that Roman retaining was the right decision because, like Bro said here, the end game really of all of this is Roman losing at WrestleMania. I mean, they could have pulled an audible and have him lose in Montreal, but at the end of the day, that was always the plan. Roman losing at WrestleMania. Hindi lang tayo sigurado on who he's gonna drop the title at Mania, but now I think we're more sure than last week. So I'm okay with the 60% of the fans thinking it was the right call.
So let's talk about calling an audible. Sabi nga ni Ro kanina, at some point, because the story was so good, they could have changed course and had Sami go to head-to-head with Cody at WrestleMania. Or at some point in the road to WrestleMania, Sami loses the championships back to Roman Reigns again. Emile, would you have liked something like that?
No, like Sami winning only to drop the titles back to Roman would have ruined his momentum. Like, I was glad that if kung ganun din pala yung mangyayari, I'm glad it never happened. Because, like, yes, you gave him the moment, but if you do that, he's not going to look good afterward. And the goal here is to put over Sami Zayn as one of the most popular wrestlers in the promotion. So, with that goal, I'm okay with it not happening.
Ikaw, Ro, may counter ka ba dun?
Before that, I just wanted to shout out the Moonlock podcast in the YouTube comments.
What's up,
headed
Ramon?
by one Mon Agbisit, the man who stood up to the PBA and won. Yeah. No, I don't have any counterparts to it. I mean, I don't have any counterpoints, masyado, but I will say that a good writer, I guess, is able to plot out a long-term story. But I think a better writer is able to adjust where needed and still pull out a good story despite the change in plans. So I guess that's what the thing really is. Parang they could have had an opportunity to show that they could pull off something good writing-wise. Pero the fact that they defaulted to their original plan shows that, okay, may kakainin ka pa pala. So, wala, sayang lang. Again, it's one of those things na nakaka-break talaga ng heart. But I think, we're also making it a bigger thing than it actually is because it's Montreal. And it's not to discount the hometown crowd, pero alam mo yun, it's a big factor as well. But I think they deserve their big moment too.
Mm-hmm. Last question before we go to break from Aaron. Do we now see a Sami Zayn title run in the future? Emile?
Yes, definitely. He's now so over that it would be dumb for the WWE to not acknowledge that and give him a title reign. Yeah, he deserves a title win, but I don't think he deserves a long title reign. That's how I'm going to put it, because he's much better as the underdog. He's much better chasing the title rather than, being the title holder. So that's where I'm going to put it.
Ikaw, Ro.
I agree. I agree with it doesn't need to be a long reign. Usually these things, especially when you're a babyface, it's always about the moment of winning. That's usually a lot bigger than the championship reign itself. Yun lang naman. I wanted to add Sir Gian's comment in the chat. The end of the championship, the Roman Reigns should have been on the grandest stage of the ball. I don't think so. I thought the atmosphere at the Bell Center last Sunday was enough of a big stage. Na I think that was at least equivalent to a big perceived Mania environment, because there were so many things surrounding that and making it a big fight feel, a real moment,
Yeah, just the fact that Roman entered first, which they explained on commentary was him still playing mind games with Sami, diba? But just, Sami getting that moment to enter last and then to just soak in the adoration of the crowd. And production-wise, you have to notice that the commentators also stepped back. Wala silang sinabi at all during Sami Zayn's entrance. That moment really spoke for itself. So I agree with Ro there na the Bell Center atmosphere was basically your big fight WrestleMania moment.
Yeah. Glendale, thoughts on the Kevin Owens thing? We'll talk about that in a bit when we talk about their segment on Raw. So stay tuned.
We'll get to him in a bit. We're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we'll recap the rest of Elimination Chamber. But before we get to that, we'll hear from our other podcasts on Podcast Network Asia. All right, time for us to recap the rest of Elimination Chamber. We're going to start with the Women's Chamber, since it did kick off the show. Let's bring up Asuka here, since she punched her ticket to WrestleMania, and she's the number one contender for Bianca Belair's Raw Women's Championship. We all predicted on the podcast it was probably going to be like this, about that Asuka was going to win the Chamber. So did anything from that match stand out to you?
Honestly, hindi na ako na-surprise with how the match went. Like, we all predicted that the narrative of this match is going to be Asuka wreaking havoc to everyone, making short work out of the competitors in the chamber. And that's what we got. The women's chamber was much shorter. It didn't have like the huge spots that we had in the men's rumble, but it served its purpose of putting over Asuka and making her look like a really credible challenger for Bianca at WrestleMania.
Ikaw,
I wasn't surprised as well. She was the best part of that match, I think. The pool was also kind of a little shallower, but they did their best, man. They worked hard to create a good match. But I said on the Picks of the Week episode earlier this week, if you haven't tuned into that, go listen to that. I said the way the two chamber matches were carried out, you can tell which match had the more effort put in and the more attention given to. So, yun lang naman. I'm fine with Asuka versus Bianca. I think this was the best choice for WrestleMania as well.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that since I wasn't on the Pick of the Week episode. May feelings ba kayong in-expound on the women's chamber probably not being given as much attention as much as the men's chamber based on what you said?
Yeah. I did actually. Because Rowan's pick was the men's chamber. And I said that the men's chamber was a lot better because they had more time. Because the men had more experience. And because they had more experience, they were given more time. That's what I was referring to when I said they got more attention. So the women's chamber was just, everyone was out. That was quick eliminations to dulo. And that was it. It wasn't bad by any means, but it was just there. Like I said during the show on the Watch Party chat, it was one of the elimination chambers in history.
Was anyone a made woman coming out of the chamber? Kasi diba normally these multi-person matches, even if someone doesn't necessarily win, they come out even better despite the defeat. So Emile, did anyone from the field not named Asuka look better to you coming out of the chamber?
I think Liv. Like, even though we are at the point where I think Liv is already one of the top wrestlers in the division, sobrang na-impress ako sa kanya throughout the match. Like, she did that spot where she came off the top of the chamber pod and did a sunset flip powerbomb on Raquel, which was really impressive. And nag-stick out sa akin yung the way she got eliminated. It took two people to take her out. That's a big sign that they're big on Liv Morgan despite her not winning the match.
Ikaw, Ro.
Yeah. I agree. Liv did end up doing the most other than Asuka. So I think she's really good. I think she's seizing every opportunity, being the horniest member of the women's division. Because she's kissing everyone, right? So
yeah.
But she's also the most improved, continuing to be the most improved. So I don't know if it's like she's stealing all those spots for herself. Because sometimes people will just, I'll do this spot and I'll do this spot and I'll do this spot. Tapos the others don't get to do as much. I don't know if she's doing that, but she is making the most of it. Nadadala naman niya, natatawid naman niya. So good for her. I think her time again in the sun will be coming later this year.
Yeah, something about this extreme gimmick for Liv Morgan is working. It's clicking naman. So can't wait to see where that momentum takes her.
Actually, she reminds me of like Prime Lita, if that makes sense. Like, she's gonna do all these spots, and that's how she's gonna get over with the crowd. And yun lang. Observation ko is she's like the modern day Lita.
Okay. All right.
I that's cool.
All right, let's go to the men's chamber. Austin Theory, still your United States champion. Was this the right move for you guys? Emile?
Yeah. Again, this is one of those things we predicted that would happen before the match. Pero before and after the match, I always thought, Austin Theory retaining was a good move. But while watching that match, I can't help myself but to root for Montez Ford because he had a spectacular showing. Again, we talked about this in the Pick of the Week episode. and he really won himself over with the crowd. Like the people were rooting for Montez to win, but sadly hindi nanalo. But Austin retaining still, it's not bad. Like it's a good move, and I'm glad that he had also a good showing in the match.
Ikaw, Ro, you were calling for Montez Ford to be the dark horse pick, but strangely, parang walang nangyari with him on Raw just 2 nights later.
Yeah, nabenta kasi sa akin ng Masked Man show na Montez would win and that would kickstart a feud between him and Dox. But I didn't really want a Dox turn anyway because it's just so good. I mean, like I said before, it shouldn't necessarily translate to a team breaking up because we've done that so many times. But yeah, okay lang naman. I think this was a coming out. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a coming out party for Montez because if you've been following him closely, if you watch Raw every week, you would see that every time they put him on in a singles match, he would just do his thing and be really good. The same goes for Dox as well. So they're both really, really good. And I don't want to say it was a coming out party because for me, I already knew he could carry a singles run. I was always matagal ko na yung sinabi na Tez was going to be the single star between the two of them, and then Dox went out and wrestles like rent was due, diba? So there's that. It's just Tez, I guess, proving what some of us already knew. I don't think the higher ups needed to be reminded anyway. I think it's really mostly for the fans, and I also think his time in the sun is coming as well.
All right.
And yung kay Tez, no, we have seen this before that they would put him in a match and he would shine and people would rave about his performance. And then the next week, he's back with the Sweet Papas and, they're doing their thing. And then once in a while, they would put him again in a spotlight. So for me, I am waiting for that moment where they would finally put him in a serious program, like long-term program where like he's eventually going to be a star. Because right now, he's like the highlight reel, to borrow a nickname from the great Dominic Wilkins. He's the human highlight film of WWE right now. So they need to capitalize on him. And I wish it could happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, para siyang Kofi Kingston 2.0, which
Yes,
I
exactly.
hope for Montez Ford's sake, it doesn't take him 11 years to get to a proper singles run like Kofi did.
I don't think so.
People in the comments have been referencing Logan Paul. We might as well bring him up right now. It's unofficially official at this point. Why else would Logan Paul enter the chamber and then hit Seth with a curb stomp before the match would even end? So, any feelings on this one now that we know that Seth's path to WrestleMania is clearer than it was last year, Emile?
I'm just glad that Logan is the heel going in and not Seth. Because it would not make sense if it's the other way around. Kasi si Logan yung naggagago kay Rollins eh. So he should be the heel. And I think I am glad that he's accepted the heel role in this match. And I think they would do just fine at Mania.
Ikaw, Ro, what do you think was said to Logan Paul for him to internalize na, yeah, I should be the heel here?
Well, he has a lawsuit for one. So there's that. I think he saw that. And at this point, I don't think anyone should be that dumb. He already knew that people were complaining of getting scammed by his crypto thing, diba? So at that point, magtatanga-tangahan ka ba na hindi ikaw yung heel dito? And syempre, he has to bow down to Triple H wherever he wants to go creatively. So I think the credit should go to Triple H there. I think it was Vince naman who initially instated Logan Paul as a babyface. So there's that. For this though, I actually finally clicked yung character ni Seth Rollins. I finally understand what he's supposed to be. He is just this happy-go-lucky guy. There's an on and off switch for his serious wrestling thing and his serious emotions. You can trigger him and then his carefree, big red boot wearing self is replaced by the serious Seth Rollins. So that's pretty cool. I think it's the best he's ever been as a character compared to all the years of being the authority guy, the Kingslayer, and all of that stuff. I think this is Seth's coming out na rin as well. I think this is finally him discovering the thing that makes him really him. I think Logan Paul is also the best foil to this because we get to see how much Seth takes the business seriously. And that's one of those things that makes him actually a pretty good babyface, You might not get it right away because he is giving you that annoying laugh, that cackle. He's wearing the most outlandish things. And normally that would make you averse to a character like him. But I think he makes it easy to understand that he loves wrestling and he loves the business.
Yeah, which, funnily enough, is basically the crux of this story. Na Seth is railing on Logan Paul for just being another big name entering Seth's world. So they're kind of channeling that feeling, which I think is also a step in the right direction. Let's go to Edge here. Edge and Finn Balor probably headed to WrestleMania as well, given the way things are going, because Edge and Beth Phoenix won at Elimination Chamber, pero clearly, my last chapter patong sina Edge and Finn. Emile, are you at a point where you wish the story would have ended at the Chamber, or are you okay with Edge and Finn going head-to-head one last time at Mania?
No, I'm good with it. I'm good with the story ending at Mania. Para siguro may full circle moment because the Judgment Day really started at WrestleMania last year.
Yeah.
So a way to bookend this story is that Edge going up against his creation at the same show that he created, the Judgment Day. So I'm okay with this going to WrestleMania. And nakatulong din na there were so many breaks with this feud. Even though the feud started last year, it doesn't feel as tiring as other storylines may be.
Mm-hmm. Karo, is there something to be said here about the Judgment Day going after Edge's family being Edge's karma for even starting it to begin with?
I know that Edge and Finn are like the biggest names when it comes to this entire story. But after the match nung Chamber, what I really want is Beth versus Rhea. I like that a lot better. I felt like they had more chemistry than Edge versus Finn. I actually think Edge versus Theory had more chemistry with each other than Edge versus Finn. I'm done with this. Like, what else do you need to do? Edge already won. Beth already won. If there's anything that needs to be proven, it's Rhea against Beth. Because Rhea's trying to be like the biggest woman in the block, right? The baddest woman in the block who can take on the men as well. And that was Beth originally. After China, that was Beth. Yun, I know that Rhea already has Charlotte, but after this, I would much rather see that matchup. Like, I would much also rather see Edge and Finn doing something else. Like, yes to long-term storytelling, but this long-term storytelling was actually a bit of cheating kasi they extended it because of Edge's slightly part-time schedule, diba? So it's not really a thing that, okay, he gets to do something else first, Finn gets to do something else first, and then they go back to the feud. It's really because Edge has to take time off every couple of months, diba? And comes back, makes his big comeback, surprise comeback, and then continues the same feud he was on. So I'm not for that. I like Edge. I love Edge. But the Theory match on this week's Raw was actually eye-opening for me. Because, oh shit, Edge can actually do other things and have it be good.
Kaya ka nabablock ni Edge sa Twitter eh.
I already told him the Theory match was great.
Overall rankings for the PLE. Give me a grade, whether it's a star system or yung letter grade. Let's start with Emile.
I am gonna give it a solid A. Medyo mataas na yan, pero it's an A. Like I said nung pick of the week, no, the PLE is under Triple H ever since he took over, are really good. Basically, the takeover formula, which is lesser matches but more time given to each matches, and each match shined on its own. It is a solid card from beginning to end, and I love it when a pay-per-view is less than. It was only 3 hours, diba? Like three. Lumagpas na siya ng 3 hours, pero it was still a 3-hour pay-per-view. 5 matches, all great, all solid. So I'm gonna give it an A.
Ikaw, Ro, your grade.
I would give it an A-. The first half, well, just the Brock versus Bobby match, it dragged down the meter just a little bit.
All right, let's go to Raw. Ito na, yung mga hinihintay nyo. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, they kicked off with Sami trying to reconnect with KO, and here comes Kevin Owens, who reinforces continuity. Sinabi niya na totoo pa rin yung sinabi niya noong November that he still wants nothing to do with Sami Zayn, which is a very relatable feeling, diba? After you go through such a toxic relationship with someone, whether it's platonic, friendly, or romantic, at some point you're just like, I don't really care anymore. I just want to distance myself from you. So I think that's a universal emotion that KO tapped into it here. So Emile, what did you think of this next chapter of the Sami and KO story?
It makes sense, no? After the chamber match, when KO came out, I was really mad at Kevin Owens for going out late. I even joke na para siya yung yung mga police sa mga pelikula ni FPJ dati, dumarating pagtapos na yung laban. Pero after a while, and then I read some of the comments on Reddit and on online, and it makes sense na KO isn't buddy with Sami Zayn just yet, or he will never be the same friend that he was to Sami as before, because over the past few months, Sami kept messing with Kevin Owens. So parang tanga si Kevin Owens kung papatawarin lang niya agad-agad si Sami Zayn just because Sami Zayn has changed alignments. It still doesn't change the fact that KO doesn't want anything to do with Sami anymore, even though he is not with the bloodline. So, and Kevin Owens, I think he's one of the rare ones in wrestling that practices continuity, and he's just amazing at it. And they're telling a really good story here, and I wish we could see more as we near WrestleMania.
Yeah, I wouldn't say na KO is one of the few. I think there are more of them. I think mas nagagawa lang nila in the current era of WWE storytelling. But I think across different promotions, there will be more wrestlers who will reference long-term storytelling the way that Kevin Owens does. But I also think na sobrang ganda ng sinabi mo, Emile, na yun nga, ang daming ginawa rin ni Sami kay KO, which KO says na even if wala kang ginawa, the fact that you just stood there while I was getting beaten up, diba, it's still very hurtful to someone like KO, especially since his family was in attendance. So, Ro, what do you think about that? Na yung reasoning ni Kevin Owens for why he did what he did despite him coming in really late?
I don't just like the fact that he enforced continuity. It's also the fact that they actually translated a very, very human emotion to the story. Like Vince's wrestling, Vince's WWE didn't really get to do a lot of that things. It was always cartoony and over the top, and a lot of times it defied logic about. So if this were Vince, I think he would have gone the opposite way, and he would just forgiven Sami. He would have just forgiven Sami right then and there. Because wrestling logic, we gotta team up because you saved me and you turned at the last minute and kind of put a stop to it, sort of, until you got beaten down as well. That would have been Vince's logic. But this one, no, it actually makes sense. And the reason why it's relatable is because it made sense. It made sense to us who may have gone through something like this in our own lives. And it made sense to someone like Kevin Owens, who actually did go through the shit that he did at the hands of Sami, or, without Sami's support. So that's why it's great. I guess I knew deep down that they were going to explain bakit late tagbok ng angkas si Kevin Owens nung Saturday. So kudos to them for that. I knew they were going to come through. The jokes were fun, yes. It's fun to meme about it. It's fun to make our jokes about it. But you knew that they would come through with the explanation. And the explanation was satisfactory. I guess the end game is still a reunion between the two. I think they're going to work hard for it. I think that's where it's going to go. But this chapter makes sense. And I think that might be the bare minimum. And that's why it's good.
Okay, so mukhang doon na nga tayo pupunta. Dean Jericho versus the Usos at WrestleMania. Are you satisfied with that prospect, Emile?
At this point, wala nang magagawa eh. It's yes. We could have wished for Sami Zayn to be inserted into the main event. We tried to manifest it. We prayed for it, pero wala eh. It looks like they're sticking with the original plans, and as long as they tell a good story for the build-up for this match, I think I'm okay with it.
Ikaw, Ro?
Yeah, I'm okay with it as well. I know people don't like this week's cinema as much because it's not the result that they wanted. Mm-hmm. But I think they're going to come away with this with the same effort that they've been giving the entire Bloodline story for the past few months.
All right. Let's stick with Raw here and talk about the challenge that Omos and MVP have laid out for Brock Lesnar. And corollary to this, it looks like, based on new rumors on the internet, na Bobby Lashley is moving on to Bray Wyatt, since Bray did reference that na rin on the SmackDown before the Elimination Chamber. So, Emile, Brock versus Omos, is this something you want to see?
I'm going out on a limb here and say this is a trap. I think this is a trap for the Hurt Business to reunite and beat up Brock. Because let's remember the Chamber finish with the match between Brock and Lashley. It ended in a DQ. So, feel ko hindi pa sila tapos ni Bobby Lashley. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just me fantasy booking a Hurt Business reunion. But when I saw this segment, yun yung pumasok sa utak ko. When it comes to the Lashley Bray Wyatt feud, I don't know how are they gonna pull that off with only how many weeks ba? Like 4 weeks to WrestleMania?
Hindi naman, it's over a month.
It's over a month. I don't know. I'm over like anyone who feuds with Bray Wyatt isn't gaining anything from feuding with Bray Wyatt. That's all I'm gonna say. And sobrang masasayang lang si Bobby Lashley if they would put him in a feud against Bray Wyatt at the biggest show of the year. So for me, it's a waste. I am over Bray Wyatt at this point. I have given him the chance to wow me over, pero wala. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Like, maybe some people would like to have that feud, but for me, I'd rather not see it.
Yeah, people in the comments are reacting violently here. Ikaw, Ro, as a proponent of the Hurt Business reunion, could this be a setup for that?
No, I don't think so. I think that this Omos feud is a way for Brock to regain his heat again, because he's been taking L's for the past couple of months at Rumble, at Chamber. So I think that this is an easy W for him. I don't think they value Omos that highly. So I'm not sure it's going to be a Hurt Business reunion before WrestleMania. I think if anything, it will be done after. Yun lang naman.
All right. How about yung prospect of Wyatt versus Lashley?
I don't know. I don't care. Again, I gave up on Bray Wyatt. I don't know what this feud is going to be. I don't know what the story is going to be. I don't know what Bray and Tito Howdy's motivations are going to be. So, nor do I care. It's just another Bray Wyatt mumbo jumbo feud that I hope Lashley comes out of unscathed, because we all know how that goes. So just ask LA Knight, right? So, good luck na lang sa kanila. God bless.
All right. Last bit on Raw here. Becky Lynch and Lita have challenged Damage Control for the Women's Tag Team Championships. Hindi pa natin alam when this is gonna happen. I'm not even sure if the Dakota Kai injury is a work or if it's legit. May insight ka ba doon, Ro?
It seems real. Parang they've been working around it, but they're gonna do the tag title match next week.
Yeah. So I have no idea kung anong mangyayari doon.
Yeah, maybe it's not that serious. Maybe they're working it a little more for an extra week longer, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Ikaw, Emile, do you think Damage Control might lose it here just to give Becky Lynch and Lita a moment?
I guess so. I mean, if the rumors are true that Dakota is injured, I mean, you gotta give it to someone else, right? If she's legit injured and she's gonna be out for a long time, then maybe the conclusion of this feud after all is Becky tag team title win, which we did not anticipate when this feud started. So, umay na ako with the Damage Control having the tag titles. It's time for someone else to hold the titles and actually defend them, because I don't know when's the last time they defended the Women's Tag Team Championships.
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. Hindi ko na rin maalala, so I can't answer the question. People here have been referencing Trish Stratus, like si Leo asking where Trish is, kasi she has been appearing in the rumors. But based on the information available, I don't think we're getting Trish Stratus anytime soon. I could be wrong, hindi natin alam. But one of the other prevalent rumors is that it'll be Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler against Damage Control for the Women's Tag Team Championships. And I think if and when that becomes official, saka na lang natin pag-usapan. Right? We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll go to Japan. Some big stuff happening in that part of the wrestling world as well for this week. But first, one more break. We're going to hear from our other podcasts right here on Podcast Network Asia.
All right, this is the audio only segment of this week's episode. This is Ro, and Stan had to duck out due to some prior commitments. It's me and Emile ASH, and we are here to talk about what couldn't make it on the live stream. Let's start with WWE. Let's start with Raw this week. And on Raw and on social media afterwards, Mustafa Ali debuted a new gimmick, and that is one. Emile, I want you to describe Mustafa Ali's new gimmick.
I immediately thought of this when I saw the social media tweets. Actually, it's very on brand with the I would call it the Donnelly Bartolome gimmick. Because yun na ba nung nabasa ko yung mga tweets niya, sobrang like ang naalala ko yung mga post ni Donnelly na yes, it's positive pero it's may pagka-naive siya, and it's very toxic positivity, and and it's about time that we have a gimmick like this in wrestling.
Yeah.
Na ganon yung parang toxic positivity gimmick yung mostly sa mga bloggers and influencers that we see today. I mean, we do have Logan Paul, but it's different. Yeah, it's about
Logan
time.
Paul isn't toxic positive though. He's not Nas Daily.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think this gimmick is gonna be a gold mine kasi tuwang-tuwa ako with this gimmick by Mustafa Ali, and that's what I would call it, the Donnelly Bartolome gimmick.
Yeah, if not, it's also the Nas Daily, the Nas Daily of wrestling, and they're both Middle Eastern, right? So there's that. Yeah, it's really really great. As a Filipino who absolutely hates toxic positivity, is a slam dunk. Because I know, everyone knows someone who is like that, and how annoying they could be. And Mustafa Ali completely understands the character. I've always said he was a genius because he's always had these ideas of what characters to take, and sometimes they don't look good, but yung pala meron siyang magandang idea behind it. So this is pretty cool, and I don't know if this has legs beyond the mid card, but I want to see him go all the way with this. So it's really really fun.
This is like a modern take on the Bo Leave gimmick.
Yeah,
that's yes. Yung modern kasi we see it almost every day with these influencers and these vloggers. I don't know internationally, but locally we do see these people a lot. So for us, sobrang nakaka-relate kami. That's why tuwang-tuwa kami with this gimmick of Mustafa Ali.
I wouldn't call it the Bo Leave gimmick because the Bo Leave gimmick was over the top and cartoony. This one is grounded in, realism because it's literally what other people would say. What the influencers you mentioned would say. Be happy. You should smile more. Be positive. I actually know some people in wrestling who are like this, so it completely tracks. So Mustafa Ali is a genius, and I can't wait to see more of this. All right, moving on. Over on NXT Level Up, the former Carl Fredericks of NJPW Strong debuted in WWE, and he took on a new name, and he is now called Eddie Thorpe. And I think he faced a lot of backlash over this new name because the wrestling fandom likes to shit on new names, especially when in the WWE. Diba? When Impact did that, diba? NJPW does that even with right now with Mercedes Monè. Diba? That's a new name as well. I guess they felt like Eddie Thorpe was something out of the Performance Center or the old NXT name generator, but a little research will show you that this is, a tribute to Carl Fredericks' Native American heritage. Because I don't think he's confirmed it yet. He probably will in an interview soon. But the Thorpe part of the name comes from Jim Thorpe, a popular Native American Olympian from the States back in the 60s or 50s. Clearly being the most, I guess not popular because not everyone knew the connection, but being a significant Native American figure, that's a nice tribute to pay. I understood that. And because it made sense, I was okay with the name change. The Eddie part, I think it's a tribute to Eddie Guerrero because he used the original Eddie spelling, EDDY. So that's how Eddie actually prefers to spell his name. So that could be it. So, I appreciated it. And because I'm in the business, I I don't readily put down the concept of a name change. Maybe they thought it was boring. Maybe they thought Thorpe was a funny sounding name, but may something. Emile, do you have any thoughts on this?
I'm okay with the name change because Carl Fredericks hasn't reached that popularity.
Yes,
I think at
yun
this
pa.
point to warrant yung he will be known as Carl Fredericks, because I think di ba he was sa New Japan, hindi siya umakyat sa ano eh. Wasn't he like a young boy thought to stay there, or a trainee of the LA dojo?
He was a young lion for the majority of it, but
Yeah,
he was the first graduate of the dojo, actually. So
Okay.
he was the first dojo guy to get a character to break out of the black tights, diba? So there was that, but it didn't really amount to much because he didn't get to do much he wasn't really brought over to Japan.
Yeah, so yung name change okay lang yun kasi hindi pa naman siya ganun kasikat for the
Yes.
people to remember, oh, this is Carl Fredericks. So I'm okay with it. But like most people were, when he spends more time in NXT, we're gonna know him as the new name rather than Carl Fredericks, because not many has seen him anywhere else before he signed with WWE. Even though New Japan is probably one of the biggest promotions in the world, he didn't really do anything there. So I'm okay with it. Plus, now hearing where the name comes from, may sense naman. And I think, yung pag mga name change, yung backlash sa simula lang yan eh. Eventually, masasanay din yung tao na ganito yung pangalan niya. Like with Gunter. People hated it at first. But now, because of his work, people accepted na his name is Gunter. So, the backlash, it's okay. Pero, I think mawawala din siya soon. Especially when they start to see Eddie Thorpe more on NXT.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good point that you brought up. Tama nga na, he is not as mainstream as people think he is. Just because you follow New Japan doesn't mean, not even everyone who follows New Japan knows who Carl Fredericks is, because he's a member of the American satellite version of New Japan, diba? So, sino ba siya, diba, to insist on something like that, People have been making the same jokes about Jay White and how he might get a new name, but I don't think he's going to get a new name. The same way Shinsuke Nakamura didn't get a new name. Carl Anderson didn't get a new name. So it's safe to assume that this is going to blow over for. I just really put this here because every now and then someone's name gets changed when they get to the WWE, and we have this conversation all over again. So I might as well address it once more because it's getting tiring. The fandom this is like one of the worst parts of the fandom. Like, let people change their names.
Diba, when Kevin Steen changes into Kevin Owens, may same backlash din eh. It always happens. The name change backlash always happens. Pero one consistent thing about these backlash is, sa simula lang siya. Eventually, masasanay yung tao. Even those people who na nagreklamo na, oh, bakit pinatay yung pangalan nito? Eventually, they will be okay with it. So, that's how wrestling fans are, I think, when it comes to the names.
To be fair, some people are still insisting on Volta, but, he has been shown to the worldwide WWE audience, so wala na sila magagawa dun. Yeah. All right. We touched upon this on the pre-show earlier. Ariel Helwani got a lot of flack for doing a lot of WWE press and being part of the WWE machine to hype the Elimination Chamber event in Montreal, especially the Sami Zayn Roman Reigns main event. So before I go into my take, did you have a take on this, Emile, that you didn't get to say earlier?
Ang weird lang nito for me because it's not like Helwani
yeah.
took shots to AEW when he appeared on WWE TV.
No, to be fair, he did take shots at Tony Khan after their interview.
Oh yeah, online.
Yeah, online. So
yeah.
I guess Tony Khan still has some bitterness over that. Because he did say that Tony Khan was a terrible interview.
Yeah, like a while back now. Pero on his honor appearances, he just did his job. WWE paid him to be there and hype up Elimination Chamber because it was in Montreal. So wala akong nakitang mali dun eh. But it already started with TK with that tweet. Kala ko nga nahack lang si TK with that tweet of taking shot at Ariel Helwani. So yun lang yung ano ko dun. the entire exchange is just weird because very professional naman si Ariel on what he did. He didn't do anything with malice. He didn't took shots on the air. That would have been worse if he did. Pero hindi, wala. He just did his job. And people, I guess, were just mad that he appeared on WWE TV months after calling TK one of his worst interviews ever. So I guess dun lang nag-stem yun. So for me, the whole thing is just...
Yeah, I actually have some insight because I work in public relations. Diba? So this part of the business, the way WWE utilized Ariel Helwani, and to some extent, like other journalists like Jimmy Smith diba, before in NXT, this is actually a thing brands do. And they use the credibility of legit journalists, legit media personalities to further their brand, to hype their brand. And I am no longer sure. It probably does violate some ethics, pero if you know about it, it's well accepted practice. Yes, Tony Khan may be right to say that there is some bias in it, but this doesn't make Ariel Helwani exclusive to WWE. It's not like he signed an exclusive contract with them. He could after this, but I don't think he will. Tony Khan is free to do the same with him. He's free to use him the same way in AEW events if they ever do that. There's no stopping him. There's no non-compete. So it's weird that Tony Khan would throw a tantrum because Ariel Helwani did work for WWE. At first, I thought they were messing around because he tagged Tony Schiavone. There was that. So I thought he was messing around, but I mean, they could still have been messing around. But the way it played out, eventually, it did seem like Tony Khan was having a serious meltdown. Diba? So there's that. It's a bad look once again for this pissant CEO of the competing wrestling company. So somebody should really take away Tony Khan's Twitter phone. All right. Yeah. Last bit on AEW. So the Blackpool Combat Club, basically Moxley, Claudio, and Yuta without Brian, because Brian's doing his own thing. They are turning, or they seem to be turning heel at this point. So they did plant the seeds with the whole Moxley versus Hangman feud. At the outset, Mox was already kind of acting like a dick by pretty much relishing the fact that he was dangerous against Hangman, which led to his injury because of the injury that he sustained during their first match. I did say back then that it was a weird position to take, especially because we all knew Mox was still a face at the time. It was a weird position to take to actually dismiss it as being part of the job, diba? So now that they are pushing the turn subtly, I think it makes more sense, and it makes more sense for them to say something like that. What do you think, Emile?
I think it's now more obvious na they're leaning being heels, especially after today's Dynamite. Like last week, siguro I would say it's only Mox, but now after what happened with Yuta and Orange Cassidy in their match, I think the entire group, again except Brian, is heading towards a heel turn. Which they're now going to be the top heel faction in AEW after Revolution. The only question is if Brian is going to join them in their heel turn, or are we going to see the Blackpool Combat Club kick out Brian after maybe losing to MJF for the championship at Revolution? So I don't know. Madaming may potential tong heel na to because again, we have seen the Combat Club as babyface for far too long, and I think they have already feuded with everyone that they could being face. So now it's time to turn that page and maybe work with some of the babyface and now on the roster being heels. And di ba initially itong gimmick na to talagang pang heel siya because their goal is to beat people up.
Yeah,
and that's a heel gimmick. So, and the only reason why they're baby faces is because Moxley was too popular to be heel at that time. And they added Claudio, who's also another guy who's popular. And Brian is so over with the crowd, even though he was still heelish last year. So now they're going to finally fulfill the potential of that gimmick by turning heel or by slowly turning heel.
Well, they started out as heel, and then now they became face, and now they're turning back heel. So I think the potential was fulfilled. It just got sidetracked a little bit. All right, that's it for our audio-only segment for this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, let's go to Japan here, and let's talk about the new IWGP Women's Champion. Mercedes Monè is now the champion after defeating Kairi at Battle in the Valley, and I think this was an obvious pick. The question really is, how far will Mercedes and New Japan go to really legitimize itong championship reign, diba? So, Emile, what did you think about this match and how it all went down?
This was my pick of the week. So,
listen to the show.
My feelings with this match, I already said it in the pick of the week episode. Again, it was a great match. I like that the New Japan gave them more time. I saw a tweet about it. It was 26 minutes. So that's a long time for a title match. So I'm glad that she's given the opportunity to really wrestle and really showcase herself in her first match back. And perfect opponent to see Kairi because it's a familiarity thing. So they really complemented each other well throughout the match. It's a big sign that New Japan is entrusting Mercedes with the new IWGP Women's Championship because she's gonna be an ambassador for it. People know Mercedes from all over the world because of her tenure in WWE. So it's a smart move for them to put the title immediately on her, even in her first match.
Here's the counterpoint to that, though. Based on yung response ng fans at the Tokyo Dome for Mercedes when she made her Tokyo Dome debut, parang di nila siya kilala. Medyo may pagkahuyu. So, Ro, with Mercedes being the champion, do you think it's an uphill battle given na hindi nga siya, she probably doesn't have the same traction that she has in Japan compared to what she has in the US?
I will say that dapat lang binigay nila yung championship kay Mercedes Monè. Because she sold out that show. She sold out that San Jose show. It was all her. It wasn't Okada. It wasn't Tanahashi. It was all her. There is a point, yes, to be made about Monè being a big draw in the US, but not in Japan. But I think those fears may have been quashed by her performance on the show in this match. Compared to when she came out at Wrestle Kingdom, this was night and day. And compared to her work as Sasha Banks, this was night and day. Again, listen to the Picks of the Week episode from earlier this week. If you haven't yet, because Emile and I break that down because this match was so good. And I think naman that once you put out a good performance and you continue to do so, you will have the loyalty of the Japanese crowd. And there's also something to be said about her Hana Kimura tribute because apparently, and I didn't know this, Hana was a big Sasha Banks fan. So there has to be some kind of buy-in there, some credibility there from the Japanese fans. So that's pretty good. I think it could be like a safe bet to have her perform muna in the US just so they can like prop up the reactions. But eventually, yeah, she will have to face the Japanese crowd. And I think naman that based on what she gave us versus Kairi, I think she can do the same over in Japan. It doesn't have to be the same crowd reactions. I don't think that's going to phase her. I think she's going to do just as fine. A real quick thing. We broke this down again in the Picks of the Week episode, but the reason why she was so much better is not because it was versus Kairi, but because she was given time to actually wrestle. So I compared the way the match was booked in New Japan to the way women's matches are usually booked in WWE. There's a difference in the time given and the resulting style of wrestling that comes out from the time given. So because this was treated like a New Japan main event, like if you have Okada versus Tanahashi match, it's gonna go at least 20 minutes. It didn't go that long, but it did feel like that. It was allowed to breathe. It was allowed to sink in all the shots, and Mercedes Monè transcended into that next level that they usually expect in Japan.
Yeah, I appreciated how the Money Maker looks much better in the context of a match as opposed to when she just busted it out on Kairi no Wrestle Kingdom. And I don't know if you guys mentioned this sa pick of the week, pero medyo bonus then that Matt Rewald, FKA Aiden English, was on commentary because that's someone who actually has a connection with Mercedes. So ang ganda rin ng extra layers that he added to commentary during that match.
Yeah. Leo, we talked about Braun Breaker last week on the audio only, so halatang di ka nakinig.
I do have a question. I do have a question here. Once Mercedes goes to Japan, if you're the booker or like the head creative there, would you put her in the NJPW main shows, or would you put her more on the Stardom shows so that she could get the hang of wrestling the Joshis? That's the question that just like popped into my head just around now. So, saan mo siya muna ilalagay? Like, would you expose her immediately to the main shows to see if she can indeed draw, or have her break in with the Stardom wrestlers?
As far as I know, this isn't just a Stardom thing. Like, yes, Kyrie is a Stardom wrestler, but as far as this whole setup goes, I think that because the championship is branded as IWGP, I think this is their part in establishing a women's presence on NJPW shows. So to answer the question, I think both will happen.
Yeah.
I think we should.
Yeah, same here. I think the IWGP belts are New Japan championships talaga. So you can't have her exclusively in one place. And I think the best way to do it is to have her appear on both Stardom and New Japan, since it's under the same company anyway.
Yeah.
Diba? All right. Speaking of New Japan, Jay White has officially left New Japan in the span of a week. He lost to Hikuleo in a loser leaves New Japan match, and then he lost to
Hikuleo in a loser leaves Japan match, and
loser leaves
Eddie
Japan.
Kingston in a loser leaves NJPW match.
Yeah. Medyo nagustuhan ko yung step nung Eddie Kingston versus Jay White, because they at least made the effort of having Jay White tell Eddie Kingston na if you lose, you can't be affiliated with New Japan at all. You can't wrestle with or against someone from New Japan without my permission. So that was a nice little step, even though I think the larger wrestling world kind of foresaw na yung Jay White was on his way out. So I guess the question here is, where is he going to end up? Emile?
Before I answer that, I just want to say this about Jay White's tenure in New Japan. I feel like he didn't reach his utmost potential that a lot of people were expecting from him when he introduced this Switchblade gimmick. Like after Kenny, he was pegged as the biggest gaijin heel after Kenny. But nabitin ako with this main event stint. He wasn't able to have the big moments that the other gaijins had, like Kenny, Will Ospreay. He's in the main event, but he was just there. When Okada is out, when Okada is not healthy, they would put the title on him, and once Okada gets back, Okada would always win the title back from Jay White. So, he didn't make a splash, but he was just there in New Japan. That's how I felt about his tenure. And yung stay niya doon really feels underwhelming when you compare it to the other Bullet Club leaders who went on, the other Bullet Club leaders during their time in NJPW. Like, you would always remember Styles' tenure there, Kenny, who has Devitt's time as the leader of Bullet Club, but with Jay, parang underwhelming and kind of forgettable for me. So to answer now the question of where do I think he will go, maybe he'll go to WWE, I think. Because they are really pursuing him, and his style, I think, fits better in WWE rather than in New Japan or AEW. But I think, he needs a change of scenery, and I think WWE can give that to Jay White.
Mm-hmm. Ikaw, Ro, you want to eulogize Jay White's New Japan career?
No, fuck Jay White. I'm just kidding. No, Emile has the right idea, actually. I never thought of it that way because I don't always think of Jay White. But obviously, he's not a bad wrestler because he is at the New Japan level. You do have to be good to make it there. But he just didn't catch on because he wasn't a guy who could catch on in his current gimmick. Like, I thought he had more cash as a young lion than he was in the main roster. So this is one of those things that, strangely enough, he could not find that next gear in New Japan. So maybe he could find it in WWE. Maybe that's where he's meant to be. I did listen to a Jay White interview on a podcast. I think it was Unrestricted or something. he did say that he started training wrestling because of WWE. So maybe it's one of those things. Oh, it's destined to happen, right? And maybe he would fit in there a lot better. The thing though is, I think there's no way but for him to go to WWE. Kasi yung stipulations pa lang, loser leaves NJPW. He can't compete in an NJPW match or show even. And as you all know, NJPW has a lot of fingers in a lot of pies. So, meron siyang AEW partnership, Impact partnership, Ring of Honor partnership, indie partnerships even. So, all of that is gone because Jamie White can no longer compete in New Japan. So, where else does that leave you? The WWE, diba? Whether or not he transcends to that next level in WWE, remains to be seen. Maybe he could find it. Maybe the people there, the experienced veterans there could help him find it. Who knows, Yeah, I agree with Kyle, straight main roster. No way he's going to go through NXT.
Would the Switchblade gimmick, though, work better, or he needs like a new gimmick?
What is the Switchblade even? Diba?
Yeah,
Can anyone explain the Switchblade?
I think that a lot of New Japan nicknames are really just nicknames, diba? Like, what is a cold skull?
Diba? It's one of those things that, okay, Japan has a thing for cool sounding English words. So if you don't agree, go look at that commercial they did for the trading card game. So you can tell they really just like really badass, nice sounding English words. I don't know. What is a Switchblade? Like, knife pervert was a better way to explain him.
I mean, to be fair, some of the nicknames do make sense naman. Like Tokyo Pimp. Okay, like I get what Yujiro is, diba? Or si Hiromu being the time bomb. I get that, right? But like...
sorry. Zendaya, what is a Stardust Genius? I've always wondered.
Yun din. Yeah. Diba? No, the ticking time bomb, I can agree with it. But like, Stardust Genius, Roughneck, Cold Skull, Switchblade, diba? Even Master Wato. What is he the master of? It's like the way of the Grandmaster. To what? Of what? Diba? So I get where Ro is coming from here. Ito, a question from the comments. Who's going to be the new Bullet Club leader?
People are saying it's David Finlay because he attacked Jay White, and that's basically the tradition of Bullet Club leaders. You attack the old leader, and you take over.
How far has Bullet Club fallen that David Finlay is the next in line?
I think Bullet Club is just better. Like,
it should have been Tama Tonga. Like, it should have been Tama Tonga. Kasi,
wala na siya dun eh.
Wala na nga siya dun. So, there are literally no stars left in Bullet Club. Like, Juice Robinson is contracted to AEW. So,
I think it's time for Bullet Club to dissolve.
Yeah, it's time to die.
Yeah.
Evil, I guess, is going to be the leader. Maybe. I don't know.
God.
House of Torture, yes.
Pero nasa House of Torture, Subunit siya eh.
Subunit. All right. Before we make too much fun of Bullet Club in New Japan, let's go over to Noah, where Keiji Muto lost his last two matches. So it was against Tetsuya Naito in the main event of Last Love, and then after that, Masahiro Chono shows up and they have an impromptu match which lasted less than 2 minutes. I just got to watch it this afternoon. I had a lot of questions because I don't really know Keiji Muto and his lore. So ikaw, Ro, may insights ka ba that you can share on the pod for unlearned people like me?
Oh no, not me. I will admit that is beyond my scope. I mean, I try to learn, my history, but I admittedly have not caught up to this lore. But he's a genius, and that's why he faced the Stardust Genius. I guess that's why they had their torch passing moment like a decade ago, and then that's why they're having it now. I don't know lang if this has any big visceral impact on Naito's career. I don't think he needed it anyway, because Naito's a big star. They're just sidelining him. But it is what it is. Maybe there's like this big significance for Muto, but to me, the unlearned Western fan, this kind of feels like a Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin thing.
Oof. Okay, I mean, I was there for Angle Corbin, and watching Muto versus Naito, I'm gonna have to disagree. This did not feel like Angle Corbin.
No, it's okay. I have nothing better to say about it. That's why I said that.
All right. Ikaw, Emile, ano ka ba? Are you updated with KG Muto lore?
Medyo onte because again, narinig ko na siya when I was still starting to be a wrestling fan. Like he was one of those guys who from Japan went to WCW and really made their name there for the Western audience. And I was scrolling sa online and nagulat ako na Chono came out of retirement to challenge him to a final match. Like,
Japanese Dijak.
Yeah, like what? Nagulat ako kasi I thought his last match was against Naito. That's what we always have known for a month now. And then yung pala, it's gonna be against someone else. So I guess that was a good moment. And ito, question: who's like the American counterpart of KG Muto? Like, I'm gonna throw that question to maybe the people in the comments as well. Who's like the American counterpart?
Equivalent?
If there's any, equivalent. If there's any of KG,
that
Muto.
would take into consideration his whole career because there are two different phases of his career, maybe three different phases of his career. There was the really awesome Great Muta part, and then there was the heyday in the 90s, and then there was the older Muta part. I don't know, maybe Undertaker. Yeah, I think Undertaker is a good comparison to that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Ito, to answer Kyle's question, yes, Japanese fans were cheering na based on what we got to watch during that Noah event. I mean, 60, 70,000 fans at the Tokyo Dome. And in 2023, given where we're at with the pandemic, medyo nag-loosen na rin ata yung restrictions ng Japan when it comes to cheering. So there, those are all our thoughts with the week in wrestling. We still have the audio-only part to go, so go check that out when it drops on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Tomorrow we'll talk about toxic positivity, Mustafa Ali, Carl Fredericks' WWE name, Eddie Thorpe, and fleshed out thoughts on Ariel Helwani and some AEW talk as well, mostly revolving around the seeming heel turn of the Blackpool Combat Club minus Brian Danielson. Right? Anything that you guys want to plug before we get out of here? Emile, let's start with you.
Just follow me on TikTok at the Emile_underscore Meister 22. I just post sports opinions there and stuff. And also follow me on Twitter at the Emile_Meister 22. Emile_Meister.
All right. Ikaw, you have that new article on Fabio Makisig.
Yes. Please go check out my new article on Fabio Makisig's diet. It's on multisport.ph. It's one of the first things there. We talk about how he bulked up this entire time. But it's not just about wrestling, it's not just about looking like a wrestler. It's also good advice or some advice for people who might be underweight. Tapos they want to look bigger. They want to pack on more meat on the bones, He puts out some really interesting insights, but it all boils down to eating more. And he tells me how he goes about eating more. So go check that out. Also, MWF is about to tape very soon. We're gonna do it in a couple of weeks. It's gonna be at Fitness Playground PH in Quezon City. It's a really, really nice venue. I am told, and I'm yet to find out. But if you can come, if you're in the North area, you want to see some live wrestling, you want to see me do my thing on the commentary booth, please do check it out. It's on March 5, and you can buy tickets at tickettome.net, or if you support MWF on Gank for only $10 or on 500 something pesos, you get free access to it, and you also get access to the entire library of Action Novela TV episodes. So a lot of good stuff. My work is on there, and if you want to catch more of that, low-key shilling my stuff as well. ManilaWrestling.com if you want to go sign up for Gank. And follow us on TikTok at Wrestling2Xpod.
All right. For me, I dropped the first teaser for On Deck with Stan C Season 5. That's going to start next Wednesday, March 1. So watch out for that on your favorite podcast streaming platforms. And ito, just open call to whoever is still listening. Please don't go after Disney+. Huwag naman kayong maging angry mob to go against Disney+. Right? Sobrang simple request. Like, don't be a dick. towards Disney Plus. You can ask them for Tagalog commentary if that's your issue. I have no control over that. We're trying to work it out on our end. But don't form an angry mob and go after Disney Plus.
I mean,
all right?
I mean, nakukulangan din ako. Like, I admit, nakukulangan din ako sa content ng Disney Plus. But I think that it's still a good deal, you know, especially for a lot of casual wrestling fans who maybe only just want to watch the big shows like pay-per-views or PLEs every month. That's enough for them, you know. I know that not everyone is like you and me na gusto ng buong library of the entire history of Raw, SmackDown, ECW, NXT, WCW even. But, you know, they're doing their best, and I think it's only there's nowhere to go but up from here.
Yeah, I think they're trying, and eventually there's gonna be more content over there than there is right now.
Yeah, I miss the network too, pero you know, mura na nga siya. Like I already like the fact that I'm paying for one less stream, and it's cheaper than than both Netflix and WWE Network. So I'm already cool with that.
It's not the end of the world naman.
Yeah, di ka mamamatay.
Di ka
Emile, ikaw nga, nilalike mo nga yung mga tweets eh. Huwag ka.
Oh? I just like everything on Twitter.
Yeah. the no one will kidnap your family if you like Disney Plus.
Yeah. All right, so don't form an angry mob. Be reasonable, don't be a dick. All right? On that note, thank you to our producers over at PNA for all of the legwork that they do behind the scenes. Please make sure to follow the podcast everywhere at Wrestling Podcast, or if you're on TikTok or Twitter at Wrestling2XPod. Individually, it is at Chino Supersized, at Monday Night Rowan, at EML_Meister, at Row is War, and at _Stan C. Enjoy your special non-working day tomorrow as we pay tribute to, or commemorate rather, yung EDSA revolution back in 1986. Sige, Ro, one last thing to say.
Yeah, if you're looking for hard to find content, wrestling content, not just WWE, you know, other promotions as well, I actually give this out. I am your plug. If you need this, like Emile knows, right? Stan knows. The way to do that is to sign up for our Patreon.
All right, there you have it. On behalf of Ro Moran and Emile ASH, my name is Stan C, reminding everyone to stay safe, stay healthy, and again, don't be a dick. Wrestling Podcast out.
Peace.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia, the hosts of the program, or other programs of the network. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone